Hurdling is sprinting over and between barriers. It is rhythm sprinting because the hurdler takes an exact number of strides up to the first hurdle and between each of the hurdles. The good hurdler spends the least possible time in the air crossing the barrier and gets back to his sprinting action as quickly as possible. Bob Danville skims over each hurdle, almost brushing it with his leg and seat as he crosses it. Hurdlers must train like sprinters, and in addition they need to be extremely supple. These mobilizing exercises will form the major part of the hurdler's warm-up. In men's hurdling, where the barriers are 3'6" high, it helps to be tall and rangy. Smaller hurdlers can survive, but only if they are very fast and supple. Many of the exercises copy the hurdling action itself, but an improved range of movement must be developed with the regular use of a wide variety of exercises which ensure that ankles, knees, hips and trunk are capable of reaching stretched positions over the hurdles without loss of form. It is vital that fully stretched positions are reached and held without jerky movements, for these can set up a stretch reflex which can reduce mobility. The key to success, particularly in early training, is that conditioning is just as important as technique work. Now to more specific hurdling exercises. Here, Berwyn Price is training his trailing leg to cross the hurdle fast and bent, to come to ground fast for the next sprinting stride. In this exercise, his right leg, which is his leading leg, does not cross the hurdle, but simulates a hurdling action before coming down alongside. All his efforts are concentrated on the clearance of the left or trailing leg, and the left knee is picked up very fast and high to allow the ankle to clear the barrier. The next exercise concentrates on the action of the leading leg. Again, choosing the slower rhythm of 5 strides between each flight, he runs partly alongside the hurdle, allowing just enough room to throw the leading leg straight at the barrier. As the right leg crosses the hurdle, he concentrates on snapping it down on the ground so that he can get quickly back into his sprint action. Having rehearsed the 2 vital parts of hurdling technique, Berwyn is ready to put them together. Being both fast and long-legged, he reaches the first hurdle with 7 strides. Most hurdlers need 8. The lead leg is thrown directly at the center of the hurdle. The leg is almost straight, but the knee is never locked. To counterbalance the swing of the leg, the opposite arm is driven forward. The trailing leg is pulled round and through fast. It is folded to the leading leg so that both legs clear the hurdle as one unit. To develop both the correct stride pattern and the pattern of acceleration, training from blocks is essential. 4 hurdles are necessary because it takes 4 hurdles to reach maximum speed. Mark Hatton demonstrates good aggression, but he uses a left leg lead complemented by both arms reaching forward as he leans across the hurdle. A different but equally sound technique. Training sessions should also include occasional runs over the full range of 10 hurdles. Training with other athletes introduces competition and more closely simulates racing conditions. Here, Bob Danville and Mark Hatton, both internationals, train together. Watch again. Bob Danville hits the first hurdle with his trailing leg. It puts him a little off balance, but as in the actual race, there are no recalls and he must sprint on. Mark Hatton's lead is marginal, but a competitive situation has been created, which is excellent training. They feel under racing pressure, but this should not lead to any loss of form. Hips and shoulders are kept square to the hurdle throughout. The leading leg still picked up fast and straight. The speed with which it's pulled down depends upon the speed of the rear leg being pulled through. Nat Augustin is a junior hurdler, clearing a lower barrier, but the same rules apply. He shows a distinct stride pattern and a bold, aggressive attack at each barrier. A girl uses lower hurdles still, but needs much the same qualities of mobility and speed. For her, speed is more vital, and no one demonstrates this more effectively than Sharon Colyear. Her warm-up exercises are very similar to those of the man, but her actions are much snappier because the barriers are lower. Sharon's great strength is her speed, which is demonstrated in her sprinting between the hurdles and in her urgency to cross each barrier. Few hurdlers in the world can match this speed. If she has a fault, it's that she's a little high in crossing each hurdle. The leading leg is pulled down as a reaction to the upward movement of the trailing leg. The opposite arm to her leading leg reaches forward and across as a counterbalance to the leg action and to prevent any twisting of the hips as she crosses the hurdle. Watch Bob Danville as he demonstrates 8 strides to the first hurdle and builds up a pattern of 3 strides between each. Effective clearance of the obstacle is almost entirely determined by the takeoff, which begins about 6 feet from the hurdle. The body dip makes it possible to raise the seat and lower the trunk in relation to the center of gravity as the hurdle is crossed. The knee is well bent in the line of running and is picked up straight at the center of the hurdle. There should be a good splits position, with trunk leaning forward to meet the leading knee. The trailing leg comes through late but fast. The leading arm swings back, elbow bent, but avoiding any swimming-like action. There is a quick return to a good sprinting action. Bob Danville is also an international 400 meters hurdler, which requires its own specific training and a very demanding capacity for speed endurance. This shuttle run introduces some training ideas for building up gradually to the event. The barriers are lower, at 3 feet, and much more widely spaced, being 35 meters apart. Much more running training is required over distances like 400 meters and 600 meters. In fact, interval training, but a rhythm between the hurdles still has to be learned. In this shuttle run, the hurdles are properly spaced, and Bob Danville is practicing a rhythm of 13 strides between each hurdle. Training like this can save time in getting hurdles spread all around the track. In 400 meters hurdling, it is essential to practice the approach to the first hurdle, so that the takeoff point is reached in much the same way as the high hurdler. It's also necessary to learn to hurdle off either foot, changing the leading leg to give alternative rhythms between the hurdles. Repetition is the basis of this training. You can see Bob Danville counting out the strides to the first hurdle and then building up a rhythm between the hurdles. 1 or 2 strides he has to overstretch, but it's essential that he reaches the right number, 15 again. The vastly experienced Alan Pascoe has some 10 years of dedicated training behind his outstanding international success. He runs here in lane 4 and demonstrates that hurdling more than any other event means sticking absolutely to the discipline that you've trained for. Changes during the race generally mean that either fatigue or panic has set in. The highly trained, highly motivated athlete must stick to his discipline, rhythm, and gain confidence as those around him lose their form or speed. Right to the last hurdle. Technique has to be maintained. In lane 4 now, he gains strength as others around him are losing their form. This is where training and dedication pays off. Superb sprinting between the hurdles. His arms punching up like a trained sprinter. He leaves the rest of the opposition behind him. This is real fitness and is what international hurdling is all about.